a different way of kind of taking roll call for the virtual meetings to better comply with the Open Meetings Act. So when we take roll call, we'll, instead of just saying here, we'll say we are participating virtually from wherever you are, East Lansing, Michigan, wherever you are at the moment. And then we'll take the next person and move on down the line. So it's a little bit more words, but it's more open where we actually are tuning in from. But I'll let Teresa take it over for right now, and then I'll take it back over for elections.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to refer to my agenda here. Let's call the meeting at 10:11. And Heather, do you do the roll call? That's the first item on the agenda.
For the Arts Commission, the chair has been taking the role, but I can do that if you would like. Actually, yes, I can do that.
However you prefer. So just I call whoever's name. Or yep. Okay. Well, I'll start with myself, Teresa Dunn. I'm tuning in virtually from East Lansing, Michigan. Meg?
Meg Croft. I am participating from East Lansing, Michigan.
Alan?
Alan Concesa, participating from my home in East Lansing, Michigan.
Thank you. So if I could have a motion to approve the agenda for today, October 28th, 2020.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving today's agenda, indicate either by raising your hand or saying yes.
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 Thank you. The agenda passes. So the minutes for, let's see, you're sharing your screen now so I can see this. The minutes for the May 9th meeting. Now, I believe that I am the only person that was present at that. Heather, you may have to help me out on the rules of order here. Is someone who is not present still allowed to motion to approve the minutes?
I actually don't know the official protocol. Jesse, do you know?
I don't know. I think it would be appropriate if the chair moved it, since she was, or acting chair, Teresa, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
the others are going to have to abstain. I will be the only person, so I'm not even really sure how that works in terms of quorum and majority.
I mean, there has to be a way to approve minutes if there's a complete turnover of a board, right? Because like that is something that's possible. So I would say that if you moved it and then somebody else seconded it, that would be sufficient.
Thank you. I'm going to move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, May 9th, 2019. Wow, that was a long time ago.
I will second it.
Thank you, Alan. And I am calling for approval of those minutes. And Meg and Alan, I presume you will abstain, but I'll call for abstentions.
Yeah, I'll abstain.
Yeah, any no votes? I assume there's no votes. So, assuming that the protocol is appropriate, the minutes from the 9th meeting have passed. And we move on to the next item of the agenda to introduce our new member. Heather, would you like to take that over that?
I would be happy to. And I think it would be nice, since elections are next, we introduce each of the panelists as well. But putting Meg on the spot, Meg is the owner of the Woven Art Yarn Store downtown East Lansing, and you can see that she shares her space with our council member Jesse. And Meg, do you want to say a few things about yourself?
Sure. Meg Croft. I own Woven Art in downtown East Lansing. I have, prior to owning a shop, I have about 10 years of experience in contemporary art, where I worked for a art gallery in New York City, and then moved cross country and worked for a nonprofit print workshop in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And during that time, I worked with a lot of artists and did exhibitions, and yeah, so then moved to Michigan and couldn't find an art job and ended up working at the yarn shop. So that's a little bit about me.
Welcome and nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Teresa Dunn. I teach painting and drawing at Michigan State. I've been in East Lansing since 2006, and I show my work nationally and internationally, and I've been participating on the art selection panel maybe for about 5 or so years now. So I'm in my home studio. So that's about it.
Thank you. Alan?
I'm Alan Conceição. I live at East Lansing. I work kind of in Ann Arbor now, since everybody's remote for the most part. I've been on the art selection committee for, I want to say, 3 years or so. I like art. It's a good way to contribute to the city, and that's why I'm here. There's no like grand history. I guess I have a Google Scholar profile. It's great for me, but whatever. It's kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
All right, thank you everyone for the introductions. And I believe now we need to move on to election of new officers. Heather, would you like to take that role?
So Nancy House has been our chair for the last several years, at least 5 years, I think, and she will no longer be on the panel. She has said that she cannot be anymore. So we need to elect a new chair. So are there any nominations for chair?
I mean, I would do it. I don't care. But the main thing is, I guess, right now it's nice to be doing these remotely because it makes it a lot easier for me to participate. My only concern is that if we get to January and virtual meetings are not still normative, I have a hard time believing that's going to be the case, but it's possible. I don't want to be in a position where, we're kneecapped because I can't show up except for like 5 p.m. on a weekday because I have to go to Ann Arbor every day. I also don't see that happening anytime soon, if ever. But I'm fully fine with doing that. Either chair or vice chair is fine with me.
Okay. Are you offering yourself as chair?
Sure. Why not? I mean, somebody has to, right? Like,
I support your self-nomination.
thank you.
All right, so we have Alan as the nomination. We have 1 support. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve Alan as the chair of the art selection panel?
So moved.
And a second?
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Should I abstain since it's me?
You can vote. You can vote.
Okay. I vote for myself.
Yep.
Yes, I.
Passes. Alan, would you like to take over the meeting and ask for nominations for vice chair?
Absolutely. Who wants to be vice chair?
I'm going to respectfully ask that it not be me. I feel like I have a lot of my plate in this new Zoom world. And
That's fair. That's fair. It's a pretty light lift. I'm going to tell
It is a
you.
light lift, but I would nominate Meg if she would accept the nomination.
I sure.
There you go.
This is my first meeting, but yeah, sure.
That's the spirit. Hey, look, they may be the vice president of the Michigan Economic Development, not committee, commission or whatever, the MEDC for East Lansing. Like I, I'm probably vastly underqualified, but whatever.
We all are, Adam. Or Alan. It's all right.
Yeah. Somebody
Basically,
someone has to do it.
If the chair is not able to make the meetings, you would stand in that position.
Yeah.
If there's anything beyond that, as I was Nancy's vice chair for all those years, that's typically what I always do. If she wasn't able to attend, I would run the meeting.
And we need to get more people, because if I can't attend the meetings, then we can't have a meeting. So like fundamentally, right now, your position is basically just to say, I guess we're not having a meeting if I can't show up. So seems pretty easy to me. I don't know.
Heather, can I ask for a point of order if it's not totally out of order? Are there attendance rules within the art selection panel guidelines? Is there like, three absences and you're out kind of thing, or?
I think that's a customary rule for all commissions.
Okay.
And so yes, I feel confident saying yes.
Okay. I was just wondering if we could, if you could supply an attendance chart maybe at the next meeting to see if there's a commissioner that is currently serving that might need to be replaced.
Okay.
I think we do have one vacancy right now, and I believe there is an application for that. I need to follow up with that person today. So I'll get you guys one more. But if we have members that are appointed that are consistently not attending, it might be time to address that as well, just to give some flexibility to you guys.
I think that's great, because it's over the last couple or maybe 2 or 3 years a struggle to get the quorum. And
yeah,
so I think that's a great idea.
Yep. Okay, so sorry, Alan, you're in charge, not me.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the new chairman's toes.
So let's go ahead and let me have a motion to approve Meg as our newest vice chairperson.
So moved.
And I guess, Meg, do you want to second your own?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote on this. Everybody say aye or nay. Aye.
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 All right. So we got 3-0 aye. So congratulations. You are now vice chairperson of the art selection panel.
Which teaches me to show up for meetings.
Yeah.
13 minutes into your time helping out the city, and you've already got a title. All right. So updates, panelists. We kind of have discussed that, just kind of talking about ourselves very briefly. It says updates, staff.
Yeah. I wanted to share a couple of things art related that were happening in the city is all.
Go ahead.
So the art festival is moving forward. We'll have a hybrid type of festival, some live, some virtual. Specifics have not been decided yet because I don't feel confident making decisions 7 months out at this point. But my goal is to have more solid plans in place by the time we offer spots to the artists in February. But we are accepting artist applications, and we're also looking for jury members for selecting the artists this year and selecting the artist awards that will happen the weekend of the festival on May 22nd and 23rd. So if you know anybody that should be a part of the festival, please have them apply. The early bird deadline is November 30th, $25, and after that, all applications are due January 31st for $35.
Are the numbers pretty standard for the numbers of applications you're receiving, or are they lower than normal?
They're steady so far. Usually we get a big surge on November 30th, 29th. So I'll have a better handle on what the actual numbers look like when the early bird deadline hits. But right now they're just kind of trickling in. I think we're almost up to 40 applicants. So we have room for, well, in a normal traditional year, we'd have room for about 200 artists downtown. So, and we usually have between 300 and 400 apply. So we'll see. There's plenty of time though. I'm not worried yet. On November 22nd, there will be a farmers market and craft pop-up downtown East Lansing in the parking garage, MAC parking garage. So that's the one underneath the Marriott. It is kind of protected from the wind, but there's also good airflow. So it's a safe space. They're working on the finer details right now. Justin actually had a meeting yesterday because he oversees the farmers market. So they're working on the finer details and we'll release them as we have them. But for now, November 22nd will be the first pop-up of the season, the winter cold season downtown East Lansing. The Lauren Asta mural that was put on the lower level of the Center City development is in place. It's the one in the alley right by Pinball Pete's. It's pretty cool. It was not their percent for art fulfillment, but they decided they wanted to add art afterwards. So they did that and it looks really cool. If you haven't seen it, check it out. The library has an art installation that will be up through the end of the year by Vivek. It put it up in with Cultural Arts Grant funding from last year. So that's up right now at the library. And then the last one that I'm aware of at the moment is there's an art installation at the Broad. They are displaying on the east facing wall, outside wall of the Broad, voting information. Several different city clerks' offices have come together on that. I'm not recalling the artist's name at this point, but it is up and should be up through voting, so next Tuesday. Oh, and then there's somebody in the Harvard Cawley neighborhood, Harvard Street and Cawley Avenue. She has put up
Collingwood, I think, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Is it Collingwood? No, it's not. I know what you're talking about. It's off of Coolidge. It's a weird little dead end street off of Coolidge. Yeah.
Okay. She put up, a resident put up little inspirational plaques on the trees in the neighborhood. Things like, be kind, you're doing a great job, things like that. And she painted them and scripted these cute little things. So just some different art things outside, safe social distance things to check out. And that's my staff update.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and move to communications from the audience. Do we have any general audience members?
There are no audience members for communications at this time.
Okay, can move on past that to our business items. So we have a mural, which we are reviewing today. This is to be installed over at the Roadhouse Pub using $27,700 from the Public Art Fund. The mural will be roughly 12 feet by 50 feet. It is going to be produced by the traveling muralist and photographer duo of Victor Ving and Lisa Beggs. So it's basically kind of like an old greeting from like 1950s era postcard. There are two versions which have been provided to us. It is privately owned, the location. So it is not, so in order to install and maintain a mural in this location, the CUP Lansing has entered into an easement with the property owner. There are two images which have been provided to us here. Is there a way to share this within the Zoom? I don't know if that's on me or not. There we go. These are a little bit squashed, but you get the general idea here. There's one that kind of has no background, or at least a blank kind of white background. That's the one that's on the screen at the moment. And then there's a second one with a blue background. I like the idea that there are hills behind East Lansing. It's the first time that there's ever been elevation changes in this part of the state. However, I do like the squirrel. So by and large, we want to discuss this. First of all, I want to get opinions from the other two members of the committee. Or the
Before
group
we move
first.
to it, I have a few comments to add.
Sure.
Just to give you a little bit more information. So the two images that you see, the Arts Commission, so the Arts Commission got to select the images in the letters. And the LAN of both of them, they actually ended up asking the artists to do more like a fall scene for the Native American scene. So the artist is working on that, but I also wanted to add that since there has been a Native American component added to the mural, and it doesn't seem as if there are any experts in that specific area, I have reached out to the Nokomis Cultural Heritage Center and talked to their vice chair about providing some feedback so that the image is culturally appropriate and respectful. So the image may end up changing, but the commission was hoping and as planning on, unless we hear otherwise, that there be a Native American acknowledgement in the letters. And then the backgrounds, the Arts Commission preferred the one that has the trees, the hills in it, as opposed to the plain one. But both options are in front of you. We're hoping for some artistic feedback for the design, the overall design.
I just point of question. I see on Justin's screen that it's got a view options tab. Is there a way to change that so that it's not quite so truncated? It's a little difficult to distinguish the individual images. I don't know if there's a way to change that to a landscape format.
Seems like in the attachments we got, or something where I reviewed this somewhere, we were able to view it in its panorama as opposed to the portrait.
Well, why don't you guys continue the conversation, and I'm going to see if I can find a different file.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have just a general thought about the movement for the percent to art, which I strongly supported, and I think it's a wonderful initiative to have more art in our community. I have issues with calling the greetings murals art. I don't see it having the same kind of dynamic as the mural that Heather, you were just referencing, that was recently finished, or the mural that Ben Duke and some MSU students painted under the parking garage downtown, and some other public art projects. And I understand the idea behind it, to celebrate East Lansing and the many things that make up the community. I just struggle with that as the traveling mural project in general, and the cost of it's very significant. In my mind, is much less about the skill and artistic vision of whether it's local or regional artists that are within our community. So I find it, it's not offensive. I mean, it's very benign, but I tend to, push back against something like that. It appears that, oh yeah, that's the version that I saw somewhere. It appears that this is maybe because it's a private property. There's the art selection panel usually functions to narrow down the field, and then the Arts Commission, makes the final selection. This appears to be like a rubber stamp that there's not a real decision here from the art selection panel. So I'm also kind of confused by that process. And then the last thing I want to say is that I appreciate, Heather, what you said about getting feedback for the portions of the LA and that represent or intended to represent the Native history of our community. And that was one of my main concerns if Native communities had been consulted. And so I'm glad to hear they have been. So those are my three main concerns. One's addressed, the other two, I'm not sure if there's anything that can be shared about the process and the going to the commission first versus the panel first, and that I'm curious about that.
I could speak to that maybe, Heather, if you want me to, or if you want to address the process within the commission.
Yeah, if you want to go for it, Jesse.
I think that this particular project was brought forward by Commissioner Tedda Hughes, and I think she's been kind of a champion of inclusivity and I guess how do I say this? Anyway, so in terms of like the purpose that art serves in our community, one of the things that she really liked about this project was the fact that it's part of a larger national network of these types of murals, and that it engages a different population in the appreciation of art. So this is kind of calculated to be targeted towards the Instagram generation. So this is something that would become a stop on people's selfie journey, I guess. So in terms of like, is it high art? Is it, is it like a deeply impactful statement? No. And it wasn't calculated to be such. This is really kind of meant to be a little bit more on the pop art side of things, more whimsical, something that people will engage with on a personal level, as opposed to something that will create like deep thoughts, right? And I think, so in terms of just the East Lansing art landscape, yeah, this one definitely stands out as being more whimsical. And I think because of the fact that the artists have a very distinct and kind of analytical process towards these, because it's not, I don't want to say it's not unique, but I'm not saying that as a criticism. It's just part of the kind of the project that they've developed. And so they have a very specific formula for how they price these and how they lay them out. So, we had 4, that's why there's only 4 things represented within the letters, is because that's how they price their stuff. It's priced by the square foot. It's very clinical, I guess maybe is a word I'm looking for. So, and I think, does that reduce the artistic merit of it? I would argue that not all art has to be high art, that it's okay for some.
Yeah, I guess I'm not saying it has to be high art or deep thought. Like, for example, again, the most recent mural downtown is very playful. And I think just like its visual appeal, its unique quality, and what distinguishes, for example, the things that I see represented in the letters are things that distinguish East Lansing. Mm-hmm. And otherwise it's, and I'm not trying to convince anyone to my opinion. I'm just giving my honest read is that I don't find it, again, it's not visually offensive. It's just really visually engaging. So I don't have strong feelings about it. And I understand what you're saying about like the Instagram population or phenomenon rather, not population. I didn't mean that as a word, but that Instagram, like trying to engage on a different level, that makes sense. But I don't have particularly strong feelings about this piece.
If anybody's got specific questions about the process that brought this to you in this form, I can speak to that. I don't need to spend like a huge amount of time rehashing every Arts Commission meeting for the last 2 years. It's been quite a process. But yeah, so I'm here to answer questions. If anybody's got them, happy to do that.
So just, I guess, kind of to dovetail off of what Teresa had asked. So this got brought to the Arts Commission first. Just make a real quick, like 90-second version of the history of how we got to these pictures today. Just because I'm interested to know that myself.
Yeah, I think so. We've seen several different kind of rounds of edits on this. It started, so we knew we were limited to 4 locations within East Lansing. And it started out as kind of I think the chairperson of the Arts Selection Panel, or you guys are the Arts Selection Panel, sorry, of the Arts Commission, asked each of the Arts Commissioners to just bring a list of things that they thought would be good to include. And then those were read out in a meeting. And then I think, things that appeared on multiple persons' lists were moved forward. And then several different background variations were offered as well. And then so this was discussed in at least 2 meetings, I think. One meeting to kind of talk about which locations would be included, and then one meeting to look at these kind of thumbnail representations, which obviously are the images within each of those tiles are not, the subject matter of the image is set, but not necessarily the arrangement, since they will be, obviously artistically rendered, not just copied photographs. And then there was some debate about switching things around. There was a lot of discussion of the land acknowledgement panel, the Native American panel, whether that should be specifically more the Red Cedar River, whether it should be autumnal. And then I think the artist took some of that feedback and incorporated it. And so you're seeing it as sort of I think that you are correct, Teresa, and that the art selection panel in this case is not being asked to select so much as to just, acknowledge like, okay, this is art, as opposed to it's not because normally our art follows an RFP process. So we'll have like, a section like the, I think the last one that happened was the sculpture in Valley Court Park. So it's not so much we want a mural on this wall in this case, because it was decided by the Arts Commission panel that they wanted this style of mural from this artist and specifically to be part of this Greetings Tour mural project. And so really there is no alternative artist to select artwork from, because part of the project is that it is art from this specific artist. So in that case, yeah, there is definitely not like a normal selection process for us.
But I want to add that the artists, Victor and Lisa, they have built in 2 revisions of the image. So we're meeting with you before they revise it the first time. So any feedback that you have for placement or any coloring, anything, I'm giving your feedback along with the Arts Commission's feedback to them after this meeting, after I hear finally from the Okemos too, or not Okemos, Nokemos. So then that feedback, they're compiling everything into their first revision. So then the next revision will be at the November Arts Commission meeting. So there is still an opportunity for revision. But because of the contract and the timeline, that's why you're being brought in now as opposed to earlier, because there was a lot to decide and it had to be decided one at a time. So
I could just say, excuse me, one more thing about the native panel, is that I'm not sure who made this image that we're seeing, and I know you're consulting the Nokomis community, or I'm not sure exactly what organization, how they characterize themselves. But
it's the Nokomis Cultural Heritage Center. It's kind of like a museum in Nokomis.
Yeah, I think that Native community or organization as such should be the one to really provide a couple of options for that imagery, because the image that I'm seeing feels like colonial representation of how they viewed, Native peoples back in like the westward expansion. So that's my first read, is that I don't know that that's how Native peoples would want themselves to be represented in something like this. So in another version of this, if there were a couple of options that were chosen by those peoples who are being represented, whatever that would be really critical to me.
That was one of my major hesitations with this image, is that I was wondering if it was taken from the murals in the Capitol building, and just inherently problematic. The other thing that I was curious about is the block S, has that been cleared with MSU with the copyright?
The NG with the Sparty in it, we do have copyright, or we have rights to the Sparty image.
Okay, but the block S.
The SI with the Mary Sharp statue.
Well, no, so you have the SI with the sculpture in it, but the block S as a font.
This is, according to the artist, this is a font that they developed from the greetings.
Okay.
Postcards.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's not a Spartan block S, because that would also have to be copyright cleared.
It wasn't intended as that, and I hadn't noticed that until you said that, but I will make a note of that to check on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so to follow up here, let me ask a question to everybody else on the art selection panel. How do you feel about, I hate to say not approving this, but we don't have the final image yet. So I guess to some degree, we can say that we're approving the background, but I don't want to say that we're approving the image itself, because nobody knows what the final image is going to be. We have an idea based on these, concept drawings, but there's some expectation that may be changed. Though the one with the different background doesn't have any Native American imagery in it, which I think we've already determined is kind of a demand. Are we really in a position to approve this?
So this meeting, we're hoping just for feedback that we can give to the artists. If you would like to view the final image before we tell the artist it's final, we can set up another meeting after the Arts Commission meeting in November.
How do the other panelists feel about having another meeting just to see the final image and give approval?
Yeah, I would certainly want to see what the final image is going to be before giving approval, if that is possible. So yeah, I think being able to give them which background format we prefer would be doable today. But I'm hesitant to approve of something that I don't know what it actually looks like.
Okay. Yep. So if you want to do your feedback right now, and I can share with the commission that you are planning to meet again before we have like the final version. Then the next item on the agenda is developing a schedule for meetings. And so we can talk about when you would like to meet during the next item.
Sure. No, we've typically been operating on an as-need basis. It's not as though we have regular meetings, obviously, given that our approval of the minutes is from a meeting roughly almost 18 months ago. So on that basis, you know, it seems like there's a lot of complicating factors in terms of trying to set up a meeting schedule for next year, between the virtual meetings and whether or not they'll be legal based on the Michigan Open Meetings Acts, and our own individual schedules, and whether or not there'll be anything to actually discuss. Any feelings from the other panelists?
I'm fine scheduling ad hoc. My schedule is my teaching schedule is regular, but everything else is, you know, kind of up in the air. So as needed works for me.
As a retailer, sort of ad hoc meetings are probably best. Just being able to send out a survey to find out when we're all available, just because no 2 days are alike for me. It's really hard to predict when and if I can appear. Certainly that percentage goes up a lot if I can attend by Zoom. So.
Okay. Though Wendy and I had discussed it. Wendy's my supervisor and the former liaison to the art selection panel. We were just thinking that maybe having a day every month that if there was something art related to discuss, that we could count on it, because one of the reasons that we haven't had a meeting since May of 19 is that we could not reach a consensus for quorum for our meeting earlier this year. And then Teresa, I think, was the only one that ended up being able to show up for approving or checking out, ended up, because there was no official meeting. So she just checked it out. The art from, the installation that we had at the Scene Metro Space, Nicola Jr. So we just thought it might make things easier, but if it doesn't, then that's fine. I can continue with the doodle polls. And then if Jesse's working on increasing our numbers, then
yes, I will help out in that way.
Yep. So, okay, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I think when we reconvene to kind of give a final approval or just a final review of this particular mural, I think we may have a clearer idea at that stage as to what's going to be happening in terms of virtual meetings in the state of Michigan, among other things. I imagine that there'll be extensions to existing law to allow virtual meetings to continue well through 2021, in which case, you know, maybe we can at least have something on a quarterly basis. But I think for right now, given the amount of uncertainty that generally exists, it's probably wise to continue on an ad hoc basis. And it seems like everybody else in the panel kind of agrees as well. At least for now, we can look at this again in a month or two, I think, and possibly there may be a separate determination then. But for right now, I think that's the best situation.
The state framework for electronic meetings right now, we can continue through the end of this calendar year with no change and into the next calendar year, depending on whether or not we continue our local state of emergency. At this point, I cannot imagine East Lansing not continuing the local state of emergency, because we're seeing a great increase in numbers and cases. So that would be the only variable to that, is if the local state of emergency ends, then we may lose our authority to hold electronic meetings. Although personally, one of my hoped for outcomes of this pandemic is that we address the Open Meetings Act and acknowledge that we are living in the 21st century and not in 1970. Currently, I think the most advanced technology addressed in that order is fax machines. So that would be a needed update. But as of right now, I believe that you will be able to continue into 2021, perhaps not through the end of 2021, but definitely the first half of that year, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm hopeful for that because it means that we're still in a pandemic state, but I anticipate that. I just want, some degree of greater clarification, which I think, may be available in a couple weeks' time for various reasons. At least I hope so, because if not, then we got problems. We got way bigger issues than a mural. So I think for right now, I would say at least, is there anything for us to really vote on then? I guess our feedback is, do the majority of us like the trees and sky background versus the blank white, or the kind of the simple green and white?
I certainly like the blue skies. God knows we need them.
Yeah. Teresa, similar opinion from you?
I have no preference, whichever.
No preference.
I'm fine.
All right. I also, look, I enjoy a good squirrel now and then. And, I can say fairly affirmatively from the amount of time that I've spent on the campus here at MSU when I was employed, that boy, people love taking pictures of squirrels. And I think generally Jesse's point about this being kind of, it's like the Instagram wall of East Lansing. That's obviously the intent. Where everyone goes, all the students will go get their picture. And it, oddly enough, will probably be one of the most photographed locations. That maybe that's like disturbing to some of us, but it's the reality of 2020. So I definitely would like to see a final version before we give any approval, but I think do we even put a vote out there that we prefer the more dynamic background?
You don't need a vote, but
Okay.
I will bring that as feedback. Can I, when you have completed, I would like to just go over the feedback that I think that I'm offering so that I'm clear.
Sure. I think go ahead and provide it now. I think we're pretty well done discussing it at the moment.
Okay. So it seems to be a general consensus that the Native American scene is, to quote Meg, inherently problematic. So we are continuing to work with NOCOMOS on that, and that will be reflected in the final design. And I'm checking on the S, which would be a change of the overall font. But the S, is it too Spartan? Is it Spartan? We need to confirm that it's not copyright infringement. Squirrel is good, blue skies are good. And you would like to be consulted before the final image is decided on.
Yeah, the only caveat I might have is I don't want to inherently say with certainty that image is problematic because I don't know enough about the background of it, and I don't feel like I don't want to speak for Native peoples, but it certainly may be, and we want assurances that it is not from essentially the authority on this matter, which would be the Native peoples of Michigan and the NOCOMOS Center.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. Other than that, we just had other listed as a business item. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Loving the silence. Would anyone like to move to adjourn today's meeting?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and vote to adjourn. Anyone in favor say aye, raise your hand. That's all of us. We are done. And so we hope to hear more about the mural and get to see the final version of it shortly.
And I'll send out that doodle poll probably this afternoon, actually.
Great. Thank you very much.